Welcome. Well, I didn't mean to do that. Welcome to Off the Record with Randall. Of course, we will go back to that because I'd like to start first by welcome my guest, Howie Chaney. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, QB1.
Your co-host. Welcome my co-host, Howie Chaney.
How's it going, QB1?
It is going all right. Tonight, we're running late. Had some kid care issues, had some work issues, but we're here. And selfishly tonight, we are talking about the Atlanta Falcons, the one and only. John Seals are already on with us. Talking, here you go, the one and only Bob. We're lucky we got on, John. We were trying since 7 o'clock to do this show. We just now got on.
John Seals, how's it going, buddy?
John Seals, future guest of the show. Once we get everything rolling with the Sylvania Rams show, the Sylvania, y'all, I can't wait for you to meet John Seals. That's a story in yourself. Howie, tonight we don't have any of the Rams on. I think we're going to try next week to have, what don't John say? Y'all are my heroes. John, you're hurting for heroes. Thank you, but you're hurting. Before we get to the show we're going to do tonight, let's congratulate young Mr. Styles from Sylvania, who won several $1,000s in scholarships. Pretty big deal down at school. Wins a Integrity Athletics Education Award through, I think, the University of Alabama. What's the young man's first name? Howie?
Styles Hughes.
Styles Hughes. Yeah, I thought Styles was his name. All right. Second of all, we're going to break from our tradition. I think we may have Styles and Coach Van on next week. We haven't confirmed that yet, but we'll get back to it. But Howie and I, selfishly, folks, are going to do a show, even if it's only for me and him. We're going to talk about our beloved Atlanta Falcons.
And John Seals.
John Seals. We're going to talk about John Seals, too.
No. He's a Falcons fan, too. He'll listen to us.
I know he is. It might be the only one. But what we're going to talk about, Howie, is we're a couple of weeks away from the draft. A lot of things in Atlanta. Let's spend the next 45 minutes or so talking about the Falcons. First, I want to talk about the roster as we set on the offensive side of the football. John, give us a shout out to the ATL. Luda, baby. Luda. ATL all the way. The offensive side of the football is quite a sight for non-Falcons fan right now. Your daughter's favorite wide receiver is
Julio Jones?
No.
Zacchaeus. Yeah. Zacchaeus.
Who is a former fifth-round pick, is now currently a starter along with Frank Darby. Both of these players, they're 1 and 2 on the depth chart at wide receiver. Kind of scary. Russell Gage gone. Calvin Ridley bet $1,500 and lost $11 million. Julio traded last year. Matt Ryan in Indianapolis. The Mike Davis experiment, I would say, very mixed grades. Now, at the same time, as bad as the Mike Davis experiment was last year, he's back, was as good as the former Tennessee ball Cordell Patterson experimented. He is the one person, along with Kyle Pitts on the offense, that seems like an NFL quality player, Howie.
You're right. This is first time in several years that the offense is going to be hurting. I feel like you don't really have a big name player. Pitts will be a Hall of Famer if he keeps improving like he is.
All the time.
Patterson, if Cordell Patterson had been in Atlanta for all these years, he would be a Hall of Famer. He just wasn't used right at all the other stops he was at. But after you get past those two there, is besides Jake Matthews, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that can name a fourth or fifth offensive starter.
Yes. I mean, I struggle. I think I could come up with 3 of the offensive linemen for sure. But I think the most fans walking around the street, if I told them who's the starting quarterback for Atlanta Falcons, they would struggle to come up with Marcus Mariota. I can't even say his name. Mariota at this point.
Right. Yeah. Mariota, he could be huge for Atlanta if Arthur uses him right by using the run pass option. And with the offense that they got right now, they will have to do anything and everything to be able to get some type of offensive explosion going on. As much as Jenny likes Olamide Zaccheaus, he can't be the number one receiver. He could be a good 2 or a good slot receiver, but he can't be the go-to receiver. And kind of like what you talked about earlier, they could end up lining Pitts up as a wide receiver instead of a tight end.
Yeah, good point for John there. Mariota, the one thing he does is run the RPO. Ran it at Oregon. I mean, I said today, John, that the one good thing the Falcons done by taking Matt Ryan out and putting Mariota in is at least when he runs for his life, he stands a little chance compared to Matt Ryan. But Howie, he's going to be running a lot for his life if they don't improve on that right side of the offense.
Last year or the last 2 years, he's been in Las Vegas with the Raiders, and they had set plays for him for the run pass option. And so, he's very accustomed to it. He's comfortable with it. But it's a little bit harder to run the RPO when you don't have no really true receivers going out trying to catch the ball.
All right. Defense, edge rusher, linebacker, safety, corner seems, if there's any place that should be set on this team, it is corner. Safety, even though we have a safety, we could definitely use a big time safety. Linebacker, starting linebacker depth. Up front, still a lot of talk about trading Grady Jarrett. So definitely some room for improvement. Thanks everybody for joining us. Tonight we are off the rails a little bit. Howie and I are on an Atlanta Falcons tangent. So please feel free to stay with us as we go through the Falcons draft. Howie, let's get into it. Pick number 8. I'm going to give you I've got some mock drafts pulled up. I'm going to go through a little bit what happens at pick 8. Falcons Wire gives the Falcons Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame. I've seen that several places. The NFL Mocks, which is a site that I use some, gives the Falcons one I've never heard, Jermaine Johnson, an edge rusher from Florida State. A couple of the other ones that I do follow, SI, in their latest mock, gives Atlanta wide receiver Garrett Wilson with the 8th pick. Pro Football Network, currently under their projections, gives the Atlanta Malik Willis, quarterback Liberty. Here's an interesting one. Sports Nuts, which is one I follow quite a bit, projects a trade out of the 8th spot back to the 14th spot. Sports Line gives the Falcons Kenny Pickett. And I said all that to say this. Have you ever seen that much uncertainty in a pick in the top 10? I have not seen one mock today other than I've seen 2 for Willis. It has been a different result in every mock. All over the place.
Because Atlanta has got so many needs right now. They got to get somebody. They got to go after, they got to get the future right now, because next year they will have so much money on the salary cap that they can go out and pretty much buy a whole new team next year because I think you've told me they've got 5 picks in the top 100 players this year.
5 picks in the top
If
100.
that's 5 rookie contracts that they can sign and have under contract for little to no money. Well, not for me, little to no money, but NFL standards, little to no money for 5 years. And then they can save all that other money for some top-notch free agents.
All right. John brings up the first guy we're going to talk about, Malik Willis. I wants to call him Wilkins. He calls him a very good pick, in my opinion. And I think John's right that it's split though. Here's a kid that was a big time recruit several years ago, signed with Auburn, did not work out, coach fired, leaves and go to Liberty, plays for the former Ole Miss coach over there, Hugh Freeze, an offensive genius, produces at that level, which is a 1A play. Hey, they're playing in bowl games and playing big time schools. But that's the biggest criticism of him. He's an unknown factor, Howie. But the rumor, we're not above spreading rumors off the record here. The rumor is that he is currently living in the Atlanta area. Let's start there. What do you think of the possibility of taking a quarterback, Willis?
There've been a lot of pictures of him at the Hawks games the last couple of weeks because, like you said, he's staying in Atlanta. He feels like he's going to be picked by Atlanta. You got to look at it like this. Do you want to go ahead and draft your future quarterback? Because we know Mariota's only there for 2 years, maybe 3 at the max.
It's a 1-year guaranteed contract. He could be gone next year. I mean, he's really on a 1-year audition.
Right. So, do you go ahead and get your franchise quarterback this year, which there's not a ton of great quarterbacks in this draft, or do you wait till next year when it should be completely loaded? That's going to be the $1 million question. Do you get it this year or do you wait one more year?
So they have been a lot of criticism of this this quarterback class. I think John's all over drafting a quarterback, and I'm kind of with him, but I'm not sure if it's Willis or it's Kenny Pickett. Now I saw Pickett in person, very effective. Felt like a young Matt Ryan. I saw him at Pitt, play Tennessee, have a huge day. But Howie, this whole thing about his hands has become a huge issue. His hands are smaller than any starting quarterback in the NFL. He wears 2 gloves on his throwing hands. Is that scare you? Is it a lot of noise or is it real?
What difference does it make if you got small hands or not? As long as you can throw the ball down the field and you're accurate with it. I mean, I don't care if you've got, the smallest hands in the world. As long as you can get the ball down the field, that's all that matters. I understand you want bigger hands to help protect the ball and all that, but, give the guy a chance. I mean, look at Doug Flutie. Look at these smaller guys. The prototype quarterback's supposed to be over 6 foot tall. Give him a chance. See what happens. I mean, he can hurl the ball. He can get it deep. So that's all that matters.
Well, he's a bigger quarterback than like Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray's hands are incredibly large for his size. Right now, rated as the highest rated quarterback on and I'm going Pro Football Network. Overall, pick 25 or 25 ranked. First quarterback is Malik Willis. Willis is an electric playmaker. However, Liberty is too far much of a roller coaster from game to game. He did whatever he had to. Second highest big time throw rate. We've charted. I take it from what they're saying in the articles I've seen. They have him second rated. They have Sam Howell rated higher, but I would argue that. Malik Willis, a boom bust type pick, correct?
Yeah, it's either all or nothing with him. He could be the next. Don't hit me the next time you see me, but he could be the next Peyton Manning. But then on the flip side, he could be the next Jamarcus Russell too.
Okay. The two pro style quarterbacks most like look like Matt Ryan, Kenny Pickett, Sam Howell, Malik Willis. Now, folks, Matt, to this day, the most popular player in Atlanta still is Michael Vick. Malik Willis comes closer to that Michael Vick, make it happen with his legs, throw the football over the field. Is there something that tries to recapture that Michael Vick spirit in Atlanta, Howie?
Of course, I mean he was electrifying to see in person. We saw him a few times. I think you went over there with me once, twice. Saw him play. Uh, Watching Michael Vick on TV did not do him justice because he was so much faster, so much more elusive in person, just seeing it than watching it on TV. Uh, that's what the name of the game is. Bring the excitement to the game, and if Willis can bring that back again, then yeah, I'm all for it.
All right, let's move around. A couple of players that I've seen mocked to Atlanta, and please forgive me. I'll get his last name right, but his first name, Kayvon Thibodeau, the Russian from Oregon, the highest ranked player I've seen mocked to Atlanta by Pro Football Weekly, rated the fourth overall player, the number 2 edge rusher, and frankly, a month ago was debated whether he would be the first pick or Aiden Hutchins. Excuse me again, the fourth ranked pick, the second highest player I've seen go to the Falcons. Do you like that fit of an edge rusher again going to Atlanta, come out early? God, we've invested a lot of money in edge rushers.
Let me answer that by saying this. Here is our 2017 and 2018 draft picks, 1 through 6 and 1 through 5 rounds. Eric Saubert, Brian Hill, DeMonte Casey, Sean Harlow, Duke Riley, Tack McKinley in 2017. 2018 was Foye Louis Russell Gage, Edo Smith, DeAndre Sonat, Isaiah Oliver, and Calvin Ridley. Out of all those players, there's only one that's still on the Atlanta Falcons team. I say don't draft the edge rusher unless it's automatic. And the only automatic ones that's been coming out lately, last name is White, and I don't think there's any more of them coming out for a while.
All right, I'm going to throw a name out at you. I personally think is the best football player in the draft. Now, everybody rates Aiden Hutchinson number 1 overall player. Don't got no problem with it. But I'm going to tell you, there's a difference between all these combines. Aiden Hutchinson is a football player. The other person in the draft that I just look at and I go, this is a football player, is Kyle Hamilton, the safety from Notre Dame. 6'4", 220-pound safety. You've got your young corner who's elite. You've now signed a veteran corner across from him. You already have one young safety that can produce. You have another young safety in the program as a second-round pick last year. Hamilton, though, is unique in Ed Reed type ability to change the game. Something I would love
Yeah,
to see.
yeah, that's one thing that's one thing the defense have been lacking the last few years is in my opinion, is on the field leader, that nasty player that will come up and just rather hit you than look at you. They don't have I don't, to me, it seems like they don't have a defensive leader. So if he can come in and be a leader in the locker room and, be a vocal leader, put people in their places, then, go get them. That's what Atlanta's defense has been lacking. They don't have that leadership out there on the field. Grady Jarrett's a great player, don't get me wrong, but there's only so much he can do, and he can't see what's going on in the back end. To me, your defensive leaders needs to be either your linebackers or your safeties. And if he can come in and be Eric Berry type, Ed Reed type that can, diagnose what's going on, then hey, go get him.
Then there's the question of the wide receiver position and what happened with Calvin Ridley. I personally do not believe we'll see Calvin Ridley back in a Falcons uniform. I didn't think we were going to see Calvin Ridley in a Falcons uniform after last year. I believe if the gambling issue doesn't come up, he's traded somewhere in this draft. A lot of talk about a couple of second rounders to New England for Ridley. Do you go dress wide receiver? And I'm going to tell you, wide receiver, you've got the two kids from Ohio State. You've got a kid, the London kid from USC. You've got the Williamson kid from Alabama. Before the injury, might have been the most talented of all of them. This is a really deep wide receiver class. And the Falcons at 8 could probably get their pick of whoever they want.
They probably could, but I wouldn't waste or use a 8th pick on a wide receiver unless it's another Julio Jones type player. There's a lot of great receivers coming out this year, but I don't think there's any huge game changers out there. So I think that, if they're wanting to go wide receiver, I think they'll trade that 8th pick and drop back some or wait and get it in the second round.
Next question. I like this. I kind of agree with you, John. I'm sold on Hamilton at 8 if he's there. Here's the other question, Howie. Do you trade back and I'll combine this with 2 and we'll move on. Trade back, defense, skill person, or there's a bunch of elite offensive linemen. Do you go ahead and invest in the future and just go, we're going to take it, offensive lineman? Charles Cross from Mississippi State, Evan Neal from Alabama's a couple of names in that range.
As we talked about earlier today, I look at a draft as more toward a offensive draft because you can teach the offense more on the fly. For this defense, they need a lot of help, and they need help right now. So if they could go out and get a couple of free agents, which free agents period is, it ain't really over, but it's kind of wound down. So to me, I think wait till next year, build your defense around a lot of free agents, but this year go with offense as much as possible in the draft.
Any party you want to trade back?
I mean, unless they can get just a game changer stud at the 8th pick, then why not just trade back and see if they can get a couple more draft picks for next year?
All right, here we go. Howie Chaney has just been named by Arthur Blank the GM of this draft. You have pick number 8. What are you doing?
I think I would, with the way that it is right now, I think I'm trading back. Trade back, get a couple more draft picks for next year, and go all in for next year with the free agency and your draft picks.
I'm going to give my opinion, and I agree. Trading back is a possibility. I just don't know if the depth is there. Like, if you'd had that pick and traded back last year, you could get a ton for those young quarterbacks. My heart is kind of with John Seals. I think there's 2 elite defensive players, and I do think you're right. The assessment we made today seems like young defensive players struggle. I think Kyle Hamilton is just elite. And I think he's a guy. Last year I said if we get Pitts, we have a freak athlete for the next decade. I feel the same thing about Hamilton. Also, we didn't mention him earlier, be a very popular pick in Atlanta. Georgia offensive lineman Jordan Davis, freak athlete, but I don't think you get him at 8. I think it's either Hamilton or you trade back if Randall's the GM. But if I had a choice, I'd take Kyle Hamilton at 8. Not bad.
Well,
AJ Terrell and Kyle Hamilton back there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you never know. You know, we might actually luck up and actually get a defensive player that ends up being a good one, you know, instead of a 1 year wonder like Vic Beasley was back a few years ago.
Yeah, I still owe you some money for that bet. Have two picks. Got a freak on 8. Oh yeah, you're right. He is. He is. Uh, I wish
Hey,
we could.
John Seals, what would you do? Who would you
Yeah,
get?
John Steele,
What would you do?
give us your 8 pick. We already just invited John on the show tonight. We'll
John, I'm
see if
fixing to send you the link. You just sign in.
you jump in, John, if you want to get in. Uh, 2 picks in the second round. We'll see if John gets in. 2 picks in the second round from the Julio trade. One, I like this. Go get a stud on the defense. I'm with John Seals. 2 picks available in the second round, Howie. One early, the pick 43. One later, pick 58. If the Falcons go, if they do use the 8th pick, whatever way they go, he's at the field house. He'll get home. He said he'd try to get home when he gets, or get on when he gets home. If we're still on, John, please jump on with us. If you go one way in round 1, I feel like round 2 has got to go the other way. Or John's at the baseball field. John, if you get time, yell at us. You're all right, buddy. Thank you. We should have gave you some warning. We will next time. If you spend that first pick or trade back, whatever you spend your equity on there, you need to change it up in the second round. I'm exactly like you. I feel like it's rare you find that elite defensive talent. So I think these second and 2 second round picks could end up being offensive players. Is there's some quarterbacks out there in the second round, third round, Howie? Would the Falcons think about, okay, we got Mariota for 2 years. We're going to take a Desmond Ryder or a Carson Strong. He don't need to play this year, but he's on that rookie contract. Possibility you end up seeing a second or third round quarterback.
Oh yeah, anything's possible, but kind of like I'm looking at the last several years of drafts, and I'm looking at it as in later on in the draft, that's where we pick our best defensive players at.
Yeah,
So I
we,
think
we,
why
we had
not?
this very talk. Last year we had 3 or 4 fifth and sixth round linebackers that were starting at one point.
Yeah, so I'm thinking later on, get your defense there. If you keep that 8th pick, then just go ahead and get a wide receiver or somebody to help the offense out. Go ahead and get that quarterback, and then later on, 3rd and 4th round, go ahead and get the defense because we've had some great players come out. In the 3rd and 4th round. Say Michael Walker was a 4th round pick a couple years ago. Let's go with Devondre Campbell was a 5th round pick. Grady Jarrett was a 5th round pick. So later on is when we have better success, it seems like, picking defensive players. And I know this is a whole new regime. This is new GM. This is a new coach and everything. And we're hoping everything's different. But if you go by the tell of the tape, what's happened over the years, our first and second round defensive draft picks have not panned out very well.
So the Falcons own 5 of the first 82 picks. I'm going to give you a couple of mocks here that goes in the second round. Mock 1, Christian Watson, wide receiver to North Dakota State. A wide receiver room is sparse to my hairline with Mariota. Need some help, someone to throw the ball to. Watson is in the range that second feels about right. He is a little known but huge upside receiver. The other pick they had is Kyler Gordon, cornerback, Washington. All right. SI's, or Pro Football Network, goes with, in the second and third round, or second round, goes with Boa Maifea, edge rusher from Minnesota. And with that second pick, they go, interestingly enough, a guy I'm about to talk about, John Mitchie III, wide receiver, Alabama. Atlanta's been the home of the wide receiver from Alabama. Mitchie is in, I think Mitchie's in that area. Give you one more set, and then I'm going to throw a couple of names at you. By the way, Pro Football Focus said in the third round the Falcons take Desmond Ridder. But this other pick I'm just looking at now, Desmond Ridder and Isaiah Spiller, second round. And then Fanside, interestingly enough, has the Falcons trading one of their second round picks, moving back and picking up 3 picks from the Raiders. So a few people want to talk about. First, Desmond Ridder seems to have more hype than any other quarterback in Atlanta other than Malik Willis. Desmond Ridder actually played well against Alabama in the big game, I thought. But Cincinnati, he's done a lot, accomplished a lot. I really think he's a viable target in the second or third round.
He could be, and you know, you don't really know. I mean, it's a draft. You know, we're sitting here just throwing things against the wall, see what sticks and everything. But
I've got every pick right so far.
Well, we're not as good as you are, but
Yeah.
looking at the depth chart for the Falcons, defensively, they got a lot of players coming back from last year. But is that a good thing? Because the defense wasn't very good last year.
I started
you
saying,
so it's just one of those things. Offensively, I'm looking at the wide receiver depth chart here, and Zacchaeus and Bird's the only two I've really heard of, and Darby is he played some last year, not a whole lot, but I still feel like you go defense later on because you're not giving up too much to get somebody like that. You don't want to spend an 8th pick on a grab bag, sort of speak.
Yep. All right. Pick the next 2 picks. Pick 74, the Falcons own in the third round. Also, pick 82 received from the Colts for Matt Ryan. I don't want to talk about people, but as much as 5 picks in the first 82 is, boy, John, that's half the Falcons this year I haven't heard of much. That's the truth, Howie. But even before we get third round, somebody like Frank Darby, that's you're a season ticket holder, I'm a regular attendee. Well, Frank Darby has not played a lot of football. Zacchaeus has not played a lot of football. Some of these kids in these first 5 picks are going to play a lot of football next year.
That may be the thing we need to look at more than, they need to go out and get people that can step in and play right now instead of trying to develop, because of they got a lot of holes to fill. Especially at the wide receiver core. There's still some good free agents out there. Well, one of them came off the board a little bit earlier today, AJ Green. I kind of thought they may try to make a run for him, bring him back to Georgia. That's one thing that the fan base in Atlanta gets upset with, because they don't draft nobody from Georgia. So I thought, well, maybe if they went out and got AJ Green, kind of like they did with the running back. Oh, my mind went blank. Running back that brought in a couple of years ago that came from the Rams. Todd Gurley. Bring somebody in from Georgia. That would help out, because you got to put some butts and seats in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, because there's too many of them that's empty right now.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the right move or not. Anyway, here at the third round, I want to get your breakdown of this, and let's talk about it. What's the three positions that we most need to address?
For sure, offensive line. That's the number one thing. I mean, if you can't keep your quarterback protected, then what, it don't matter if Tom Brady's back there. If you don't give him time to throw the ball, he can't win games for you. So offensive line has got to be the main issue to be addressed behind the right in front of the wide receiver core.
So you've got 4 of the 5 positions on the offensive line probably fairly well nailed down. Center, one of the guards, one of the tackles. Is it go find, and we did sign a couple free agents. Would you spend a pick that high on a offensive lineman that is more? I think if the Falcons add somebody, it's got to be somebody that can play multiple positions.
Oh, absolutely. And it's got to be somebody that can be able to move with the blocking scheme that
I'm still here.
with the blocking scheme that Arthur Smith incorporates, because he wants to run the ball. And so they got to be able to get somebody in there that can play multiple positions and be a good run blocker. That's one thing that Atlanta's kind of lacked over the last couple of years, is that bulldozer type that could clear away for somebody. Like we talked about earlier, ever since Alex Mack has left, they haven't had a great running attack. And I feel like Alex Mack was the reason behind that, because he was doing the blocking assignments.
Wide receiver, offensive line, give me the third one. And I'm going to throw one out you. What to say?
Linebackers, because we've only got one linebacker coming back.
All right, linebacker, do we address running back at some point?
I don't see how we could, unless they're going to cut Mike Davis, because they've signed 2 free agents, and then, they brought Olsen back. They signed a free agent, got Patterson, and got Mike Davis. I don't think you want to have a 5th running back unless you're going to cut somebody.
All right, let's get through the rest of these picks. One pick 114 in the 4th round. A 5th rounder, pick 151. 2 6th rounders, pick 190. And then also there's 3 6th rounders, excuse me. Pick 190, our pick 213 for Alex Mack. Oh, sorry, just 2. So you get 1 compensation pick. No 7th round pick. So in total, we've got 2 6th, a 5th, 1 4th, 2 6.
We're at 4 right now.
Yeah. 2 thirds, 6, 2 seconds, 8, and 1 first. 9 bodies coming out of this draft. What is your mix? Offense, defense? 60-40, 70-30. What's your mix?
I think they trade out of some of those to move to next year's pick. But I'm going to say they're going to probably go 70-30 with defense. But now that 30% could end up being that number 8th pick being Malik Willis at quarterback.
I agree. Or Drake London, the wide receiver. I also think there's some interest in the mid rounds. I've seen the name Isaiah Spiller in the 3rd and 4th round, Texas A&M running back, on multiple mocks, and I've also read a couple of articles. A lot of interest in maybe a mid-round back that is John said no. I didn't know what he said no to. A mid-round back for a developmental back. Is there a chance they move Cordell outside to play wide receiver?
Oh yeah, I mean he's built to be a wide receiver. He's got the speed, he's got the height, he's got everything to be a Julio 2.0.
Can't run a
Um,
route for crap.
well,
Uh,
if you can outrun, no running back. If you can outrun everybody, you don't have to run a perfect route. And as
and he
big
was
as he is,
capable of
he
that at Tennessee.
and if you can out jump everybody and just bulldoze your way through stuff, just throw screen passes to them all day long and just let them run over everybody.
So I'm gonna John, cover your ears. I do think that there's part of me that wants to see a running back at some point, just to move Cordell. No, I've changed my mind because I don't want to get John's wrath. Uh, I think Cordell ends up outside. I think Kyle Pitts ends up outside. I don't think they end up there permanently, but I think they end up there as part of the package. And you'll look up and you'll see Kyle Pitts outside. You'll see Julio outside. The Falcons just recently signed a tight end from the Titans. So you might see him in more of a traditional tight end role while Pitts is on the field in a more slot receiver role, thus expanding that wide receiver room.
Oh yeah, I mean, more likely that's going to happen. They did Patterson like that last year, as far as throwing them out there at the slot every once in a while. And that would put a nickel or a linebacker on them, and that's a mismatch all day long. Get Cordell the ball and watch them go. The tight end you're talking about is Anthony Fisker that's going to come in. He had a pretty good career
Yep.
playing at Tennessee under uh, under Arthur Smith. So that could open up the keys to moving Pitts over to to a slot or to a third receiver type deal.
Hey, Howie, your fan base is calling for you.
Yeah, Miss Margaret.
The fan base is calling for Howie Chaney, the most popular man in Sylvania, Alabama. All right, Howie, we got about 10 more minutes. We'll wrap this up. Going to do some rapid fire for you. And for me, I'm going to go ahead and throw myself out there. God, I hate to start with this question, but you got to start. Could the Falcons be so bad this year that we find ourselves in the Bryce Young sweepstakes at the end of the year?
I don't want it to happen, but I wouldn't mind seeing it happen.
It takes me.
If that makes sense. If that makes sense,
It does
I
not,
mean,
but I know what you're
I
saying.
mean, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind seeing Bryce Young come to Atlanta, but if you draft that quarterback with that eighth pick, you sure don't want to pick another quarterback next year.
You've got to be the most quarterback needy person to be drafted number one next year to get Bryce Young, though. We agree on that, right? You
Oh
could
yeah,
have certain
absolutely.
teams in front of you, like the Jaguars. They're not going to draft another quarterback. But Bryce Young is probably, without the doubt, well, and the quarterback from Ohio State, uh, they're 1-2 clearly. Um, I'm going to give you 2023's rankings. All right, you ready for this? CJ Stroud, number one player on the board. Number two player, Bryce Young. Current mock draft from Pro Football Futures. This is 23 to the Texans. CJ Stroud, Ohio State. At the second pick to the Atlanta Falcons, Bryce Young. I think that I don't want to think the Falcons are playing to lose, but I think it's a possibility. Not that they're playing to use, but we haven't brought up the 5,000-pound elephant in the room. And no, Alabama fans, I'm not talking about you. The Falcons have $60 million in dead cap. There's only so much they can do to fix this football team this year.
Right. It goes to will we get Bryce Young next year? I say no, if we pick Willis at number 8. If we don't pick a quarterback at number 8, then there's a possibility we might try to get a Bryce Young or somebody like that.
How many?
So
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the record is before summer, before everything? Are you looking at a 5-win, 6-win team, or are you looking at a 3 or 4 team win?
let me see who we're playing real quick. I can't even remember. The 2020 schedule is not up yet. 2022 schedule.
John said he'd join us next time, Howie. We just got to tell him ahead of time. John, we threw this together last minute. We're sorry, but yeah, you're now a Falcons roaming reporter. So yeah, we'll get you on, buddy. Thank you. Go ahead, Howie.
I don't. This is sad when you can't say you're not sure how many wins you're going to have because of the fact that you don't really know for sure if Mariota's going to be the quarterback or not.
Right.
If they do draft Willis at the number 8 pick, then he'll be coming in fighting for the job just like Mariota, and you don't know who's. I don't know. I will say we'll have a top 10 pick next year.
All right, let's move on. Get through these last. I got 2 more questions. We'll wrap it up. If you're the GM of the Falcons and you're there in the second round, and one of these developmental you haven't took Willis with pick 8, but you have the opportunity to get Sam Howell or Desmond Ridder, one of these guys with upside. Is it not wasting a pick if you start Mariota, he loses 12, 13 football games, you're going to draft one of those top quarterbacks. So really would be investing in a quarterback other than Willis be kind of wasting a pick, knowing that if Mariota fails, you're going to have a 1 or 2 pick?
Yeah, I think so. If you're Atlanta Brain Trust, if I'm the GM, I got to decide: am I going all in this year, or am I going to wait till next year? And I really believe that if it was me, as bad as I hate to say it, I'd have to say wait till next year, go all in with that 60 million plus cap relief that you're going to be having. Go get that Bryce Young or whoever it may be coming out to get them and start your franchise over starting next year.
All right, Howie. Last question. We'll call it a night. Thank you, John Seals, for joining us on text. We'll get you on here, man. Do you, and this is, you don't have to be along with it, but I want to get your opinion as a season ticket holder. You're going to pay your money for your tickets. You're going to go this year with a football team that's going to have a roster under $100 million, $60 million in cap space. Do you support the direction of trading Matt Ryan, trading Julio, making several painful cuts on the football team for money just to free up that cap space for 23?
Yeah, I go along with it. You got to. I don't like the way they done it with trading Matt. Not necessarily about trading him, but the way they went around about doing it. They put all their eggs in a basket, thinking they was getting Deshaun Watson, and that fell through at the last minute. And I'm happy for Matt. I'm glad he's going to a team that's a contender. They were a contender without him, and they're even a better contender with them now. And so, yeah, I agree with it. I mean, I pay the money. We go. We have a great time. At the end of the day, if all these trades ends up bringing us a playoff game, then hey, I'm all for it.
2017 was still the more outside of '98 when the Vols won the national championship. Being a UT grad, 2017 is still the most special football season of my life. We went to every game up to the Super Bowl, there for the playoffs. I want that feeling again, Howie, and I think this is the quickest way to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was great. We went to the playoffs games. I've never seen you as nervous about a ball game as that championship game against
I
Aaron
was
Rodgers and the Packers.
I was worn out,
And
man. Hey, Howie, at halftime, I was ready for a nap. I
well,
was
two claps and a
emotional.
Ric Flair.
Woo! All right,
So
Howie.
yeah, it was great experience. I want to get back to the way it was there in the 2010s, 2015s. As you can tell, Jameson Winston is not one of John Seal's favorite players.
I'm kind of with him there. Here he makes good crab legs.
So,
All
but
right,
yeah,
Howie.
I just want to get back to the playoffs and have it fun again like it was in the Georgia Dome during all those playoff runs.
Absolutely. Well, we've kind of took a little side road the last couple of weeks. Our friend Jeremy was on about WrestleMania. We were on about the Falcons. And hey, Coach Van, if you're listening, I know I haven't contacted you, but I'm going to contact you. We're going to try to get the Sylvania Rams on next week, but I'll let everybody know. But it's been nice to kind of run down these roads that you and I always live and die on. Have you watched any Braves yet?
I'm not. I haven't watched a ball game in probably 2 months.
It's because you're working 90 hours a week, so it's excused. It's interesting. We'll probably get down to Atlanta at some point, do a couple of Falcons games, but I do. It's very surreal watching Matt Olson at first base and some Freddie Freeman. It's very surreal. It's going
I'm
to be.
reading and hearing where Olson is putting the ball in play every time he gets up to bat.
He is ripping the freaking cover off of it. Again, I was crucified on reckless speculation because I support the move. I think Freddie overplayed his hands. The Braves went and got an all-star first baseman in his 20s for many years to come. John Seals, you have a good weekend, my brother. Thank you for joining us. So, Howie, we'll get back on Sylvania Rams and the high school football coaches interview show and all that other stuff. It's been kind of fun to detour for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we got the draft coming up in 2 weeks. They got a big draft party going on in Atlanta 2 weeks from tonight. Me and the girls are going to be over there having a good time. It's always fun getting into the bins, being able to roam around and see some of the people we hadn't saw in a while.
Will you do a spot on our draft show from the draft special? Because we've got a 2-hour special going on with Reckless Speculation live draft night. I'll send you a link and you can jump on at some point and when the Falcons are about to pick and do a spot with us if you don't care to.
Yeah, I don't mind a bit. I enjoy it.
All right. For the most handsome, trimmed up, good looking guy in sports podcasting, Howie Chaney. And for the fat guy that sits next to him in the Tennessee hat, Randall Cunningham, QB1, number 1 in your heart, number 2 on your podcasting dial. Join us next week as we bring you more of Off the Record and the Sylvania Rams football program on River City Media. Like and subscribe, folks. Thank you and good night. God bless. Drive safe, 2 drink minimum.